I think the impact fees definitely need to be looked at. Those are a huge hindrance. Being in the construction and development industry for the last 5 years, I have a firsthand knowledge of what impact fees do to the developers, and we need to figure out how we work with the development community to figure out what the right impact fees are. Chuck's Produce was a good example in Vancouver. In La Center, we had impact fees as well on a development that they wanted to put in by the Chevron, the marketplace, and the first impact fees came back, the bill was $300,000. And I believe the building was, I believe it was 10,000 square feet, but I'm not 100% positive. But it was a huge amount of impact fees. They went back, they adjusted it, came back at 150,000 was the second. And what my problem was, and I talked to the developer that was trying to do it, and it was, his issue was this would actually reduce traffic. So we wouldn't have the impacts because they wouldn't have to be traveling on our roads. They wouldn't have to be going to Vancouver to get services they could get in La Center. And unfortunately, it doesn't pencil out when you add 300,000 to a 10,000 square foot building. I think we need to use common sense and make sure that we have impact fees that make sense for the business community as well as the city and the citizens. I was on council for 5 years, and we always talked about how we need to make sure we look at, everybody always wants to add taxes without looking at the expenses, and I think we really need to take a hard look at all the expenses and make sure we're covering needs, not wants. I've been going to the council workshops for the last couple months, and they're working on the next budget, and it's like a lot of the council members, which is very refreshing, are talking about, okay, let's prioritize what the city needs and what the citizens need, not what we would want, not what we want to have. I think a lot of people going through the budget, you go and look at what was the budget last year and let's go off that. It's like, no, let's go off actual what we spend and let's look at every expense and make sure that every expense makes sense. Like you said, it really directly doesn't affect La Center, but it does affect La Center because our residents still, they're having to work in Vancouver and work along that corridor. And I think we need to really take a hard look at making sure we don't push people to the buses. The buses are a great thing. Unfortunately, I think we're getting pushed into Portland wanting us to be them, and we're Vancouver. We're not nearly as dense as Portland is. And buses, unfortunately, are not, while they're a great service, I think we really need to take a good, hard look at how we're spending those dollars. I think it's one of those things I haven't been totally involved in. I know we haven't had a lot of discussions. We do have representative representing North County. And I think we just need to get the citizens' input on what they feel is important. Do they feel that we need more buses? Do they feel, and we haven't had the open houses and we haven't got the input from the citizens. We had an open house out in La Center and it was kind of almost embarrassing. There was only, I think there was 12 of us and 3 citizens, 4 came from Vancouver and a couple came from outside of the service district, so they didn't even get a vote. And I really think adding 0.2%, while it's not a whole lot of money, people are living on fixed income, people can't afford to add additional taxes onto theirs, and we will be taxed on that because we purchase most of our stuff. Unfortunately, we have to purchase the stuff in Vancouver, and we need to make sure that I think our citizens get a vote on that. I personally don't support that, but I do believe as the mayor and if a representative of the citizens, I think we need to have their input on what they think. Commissioner Milky came out and wanted a district-wide vote, and I think we need to ensure that we get the citizens' input on this. They had a vote in 2007, I believe it was. They said no. I think we need to get out there and find out what they want. Building a bridge on 192nd, while it doesn't really directly affect the citizens of La Center, it would. There are people that live in La Center that work on the east side of Portland. So I think trying to get a third bridge could be a good opportunity, could be a potential way to help traffic move and help people get there. I think it's one of those issues that hasn't been really looked at completely. We focused 100% on doing a new bridge across the Columbia River and adding the light rail issue and that. So I think we need to look and make sure we analyze all the issues. In regards to finances, like I said, my background is financial management. I've been a controller for 3 separate companies, first in the manufacturing arena for 13 years for Lamb-Glass fishing rods, and then I worked for a developer for 5 years, a controller in the last year for a general contractor. So I really, working on multi-million-dollar budgets. So I really think, and La Center's in a different position than most other cities. We have $18 million in the bank, so we're able to fund capital projects. The unfortunate thing is we've built our expenses up to our revenue. We have the 4 non-tribal casinos there in La Center, and they produce probably about $3 million, a little over $3 million. So they've done very well, and we've kind of built our budget up to and including some of the wants instead of the needs, and we've been able to afford that. One thing that's recently come up, I mean, we have definitely some challenges coming. The potential of the Cowlitz Tribal project coming up the junction. We have the Woodland now is looking at adding card rooms there, which not that they're going to devastate La Center, but it's going to be a potential. So I think we really need to make sure we look, because we're starting to look at looking into taking out reserves. And when I was on council, myself and another council member had worked at trying to put money away from our operating to put into a rainy day fund. Yes, we had $18 million in the bank, but we still thought let's make our budget and put 10% of our operating into reserves. And I really think that it's very important in this day and age. Yes, we have money. Our budget's around $4 million on the operating side. We have 400%. So we are in good shape, but we need to make sure, and because there are some challenges coming that we need to make sure that we're looking at. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to CUV.com and their listeners and viewers. Lifelong resident of La Center, went through the whole school system, 1st through 12th grade. Went to Clark College, got my associate's degree in accounting there. Portland State, got my bachelor's degree there, then went on to work for Lamb-Glass, like I said. So my background is the last 20 years in financial accounting, and I think now in this time we need to be looking at the numbers and looking at our expenses, looking at our revenue, and there are potential for increased revenue. I mean, they're talking about slot machines as adding to helping the state out. Well, it would also help out the city out, and I think we need to look at that opportunity. My background's in the construction development the last 5 years, and I think I bring a little different view than my opponent. I've been in the private industry for the last 20 years, which I think is critical in this time. I've also been a leadership Clark County graduate, and working on that, I was on the board for 8 years, and I put together a trip up to Olympia, and I was able to set up meetings for actually the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and I was able to set up those meetings. And I think it's critical to have relationships with various other people, whether it's at the state level, at the local level, working with the Port of Richfield. We just annexed it out the area, but it's limited space out there. There's not a lot of land on, because we only got, unfortunately, the southeast corner of the I-5 junction. So it's critical that we make sure that we creatively figure out how we develop that, and we don't just haphazardly have whatever development happens. We need to make sure, because it's going to cost about $7 million to run sewer out there, we need to be smart and work with other partners within the region, whether it's the Port of Richfield, Port of Woodland, to get some knowledge. CREDC just came out with a plan regarding the Discovery Corridor, which extends down to the La Center interchange. We need to build on and get some free advice from them. They've gone through, they have some expertise. I think we need to talk to them, work with them, and make a better La Center. So very important to keep the quality of life in La Center positive, and I think we can, with working with council, I think we can do that. And I look forward to serving the next 4 years as mayor. Thank you very much.